Yat shikero shidene adita isos agido kojidit ada adoleda hatan tras en reha ilenat kito helapahane tanoson a igahai nere adoleda bigita ston in the con e beshkan egita the YouTube that is not e kon nikidene hot adolek in the nis kon adoleda yata halne kon ya danil in lenko kodische ya kodo se ya hai kapen sit kodische hin song ado in shehegi ya hai Glenn King in she ado na kai na nest esin song thodich ini pasichin na kai de ne ta nalle ado tsna chene ita siche ado kote sebi to hol yeta ade ike hunst in lenko ado na kai pahas ate ade igisina shako ado na kai Abelagonic Asido Kung Bahashnet Doli Linko. My name is Glenn King. I'm originally from Twin Lakes. I reside in Sand Spring, New Mexico, and I've been here for quite a few years. I was born on December 24th, 1953. It was early morning, early Christmas Eve morning, at a place in Church Rock near a trading post called Outlaw Trading Post. And when my mom went into labor, my father kind of panicked. And good thing the store was open. And then he went over there and he found some ladies who were there, Navajo ladies. And then he told them that his wife was giving birth. So people dropped everything what they were doing, and we didn't live too far from the trading post. It was only like a quarter of a mile. And so those ladies came over, they showed up, and then they started coaching my mom on childbirth and everything else. My mom was about 26 years old, and my dad was 32 years old at the time. And when I was born, they gathered around me, and I came out. And then they said the first thing I touched was Mother Earth. And after that, they tried to look for a blanket, baby blanket, or anything, but then they found some of my old mother's skirt laying around. So they grabbed one of those and wrapped me in that. And that's how I was conceived, right there at home. And my mom told me later on, she said, "You know what?" She said, "You would have been born on Christmas Day, but then a day before, I guess she did some manual labor, hard work, carrying this and that. It kind of induced her into labor. And that's why, I came in on the 24th. And I always joke about, people ask me, how come you weren't born on Christmas Day? And I usually say, well, I wanted to, how they say Santa Claus comes on Christmas Eve at night? I said, I wanted to see if it's true that if there was a real Santa. That's why I was born on the 24th. Uh, that's what I usually say. But I don't remember much, from my childhood. But the time I reached the school age, there was a school nearby, Church Rock Elementary School. And then one day, I guess I was old enough to go to school. My mom walked me over there. We didn't live too far from the school, probably only about a mile and a half. And we walked over there and she enrolled me. I didn't know what was going on. Next thing you know, she said, "Well, take care of yourself, you know where to go, you know how to walk home and everything else." And I said, I was just standing there. What is she talking about? And then she started walking out. And then I ran after her. And all these people, the office employees, teachers, they come running up to me and grabbing me. I was kicking and fighting and crying because my mom left me there. And it took me a while to settle down. And then from there on, they took me to one of the classrooms. And the teacher's class uh, was uh, the teacher's name was Mrs. Perry. She was a nice white lady, and she had a real gentle voice. And then she's the one that kind of settled me down, and she she kind of took care of me that day. And then that's when I started going to school, and I went to school there from first grade all the way to sixth grade, and then from there, at the time, my dad was planning to move to our paternal family's dwelling, which is at Twin Lakes, New Mexico, and we've been going over there like every weekend, because he was constructing a one room frame house, and when he complete that, we decided to move there, and we did, and finally at the end we moved over there, and but during the summer, when I was not in school, I enjoyed going to my aunt's house. My grandpa was there, my grandmother was there, and over there I spent the summer herding sheep, taking care of livestock, and a lot of things. And then my grandfather, he used to tell me, he said, "Let's go. I'm going to show you how to harness the wagon team, and hook up the wagon and everything else." Because at that time, that was the only transportation that they had. And I enjoyed it, and I learned a lot of stuff, traditional stuff from my grandfather, and I enjoyed my summer there, being over there with my grandparents, my aunt, and away from home. The reason why I wanted to spend time with my grandparents was because my parents used to drink, and when sometimes they do get out of hand, and a lot of times they took it out on us. They always we end up getting whipped, slap, kick, or whatever, and that's the reason why, I usually go to the uh, the summer and spend time with my grandparents. I remember, when we used to still live at Church Rock, and my father, my mom, and their friends, they went out drinking. I guess while they left to go to Gallup, and when they came home, they were all drunk, and then they started fighting each other, and there was just three of us. One, my two older sister, one was paralyzed. She never walked uh, in her life. So there was three of us, and everybody was fighting, and they kind of took that out on us. They were throwing things at us, and so what we did was we just grabbed the blanket, we grabbed our paralyzed sister, and we just took off. And it was in the evening. It was dark, and then we just took off. And there was a royal nearby. We ran over there. We got into the arroyo, and we just stayed there. We just stayed there, and we were crying. We were hungry. We were cold, but we covered each other, with the blankets. We stayed there all night, and then finally in the morning, when everything quieted down, well, I had to. My sister told me, she said, "Go home, check on those people." And I did. I went back over there, and then everybody was sleeping. I guess they don't remember what happened, but that's what happened. And when I used to get whipped like that, I used to curse at my parents. And then sometime I would say, I wish they would never come home. And those are the thoughts that were going through my head at the time. And then if social service was around at the time, they would have probably taken us out of the home, and then probably go to a different home, or maybe somebody might have adopted us. So, but anyway, that's what happened. That's how I spent my summers with my grandparents. And then when I was after I finished sixth grade, we moved to Twin Lakes, and my cousins, they used to go to school in Oklahoma, Shilaka, Oklahoma. And then one day they said, "You should go to school too." And so the day of the registration came around, and me and my sister, we registered, my oldest sister. And they said, "Well, be here on this date at this place, which was Tohatchi boarding school." And that's where the bus, everybody got on the bus with all the clothes and everything else. So during the summer, they bought us clothes, and then that date came around. That's when we went over there to get on the bus. But they had to do some paperwork, and then come to find out, I wasn't accepted. and my sister, my oldest sister, was the only one that was accepted. And she got on the bus and they left for Oklahoma. And then there was uh, a boarding school nearby, Chuska Boarding School at Tohatchi. That's where my parents took me up there and they registered me. And I didn't really like that boarding school, and people that went to boarding school, you know what I'm talking about. And so the boarding school was like a military camp, and you couldn't really do anything. And um, they were mean, and if somebody gets in trouble, everybody was in trouble. They used to get us in the middle of the night, exercise us and everything else. Oh man. And then the weekends, we had to scrub that dorm, turn it upside down and clean every crevices. That's the way they were. So I spent 2 years there, and I left from there when I completed my eighth grade. And then finally, I went down to public school, which was Tohatchi High School, and I started my ninth grade education there as a freshman, and I spent my year there as a sophomore. So I went to Tohatchi High School for a couple of years, and then after that, I didn't really like the location and everything else. So the the next following year, I went and registered with Gallup High School. But when I was at Tohatchi High School, I ran into well, I didn't run into, but there were people, my classmates, friends. They're always talking about, oh, we had a good time, we got drunk, we went do that, we got in a fight, and everything else. And so they kind of got me hooked into it. And they said, come on, let's go. There's a dance in Crown Point or somewhere else. And then at that time, the to go into a dance, it only cost $1, at around that time. And so that's what we did. And then my friends would come around on the weekends. We take off. They come over to where they found out where I live at. So they come around, they pick me up. And then one day, my dad didn't like that. And he grabbed his belt again, and he was going to whip me again. That's when I stood up to him. I put up my fist and everything. Uh, like Clint Eastwood says, "Go ahead, make my day." But Clint Eastwood hasn't made that movie yet at that time. But he backed down. He backed down because that was the day I kind of, like I was more or less, left to make my own decision, and that's when I got, that he quit doing that. There was 8 of us in the family. Uh, my oldest sister was adopted by my aunt, and we had a little brother. He wasn't even a year old, but he passed on. And so the rest of us were there. And my dad was working. And to us, to me, there wasn't enough money to go around. I wanted this, we wanted that, but my dad could only afford the minimums, a place, roof over our head, and what to eat and things like that. So I started working summer, like I go into Gallup, find some odd spot jobs, and I did that. And finally, one summer, I ended up out of state, Wyoming, Utah, and I work up there during the summer, and I started earning some money. And at Gallup High School, the only uh, I went up to my 11th grade junior year, and then I never go. I never went back to school, so I'm a high school dropout. And so at the time, the conflict in Vietnam and Southeast Asia was going on, and then I had my cousin, my brothers, my cousin brothers. They all enlisted in the military, and they would come home on leave, and then they kind of, we got together and everything else, and they would look at me and they would say, Glenn, you should join the military. It's good for you. And they were all in the Marine Corps. A cousin was in the Army and things like that. But then I was more interested in becoming a Marine. So they kind of talked me into it, and they said, do this, do that, and then you'll be okay in training. And that's what I did. So finally, one day, back in 1973, uh, towards the end of February, I went to Gallup, to the recruiting office. And I walked in there, and there was some people in there, the Air Force, the Navy, the Army, and the Marine. The Marines were way in the back. As soon as I came into the building, the Air Force guys and the Navy guys, they jump up and say, "Oh yeah, come on in, come on in. Yeah, you can join the Navy, you can join the Air Force." And then the Army guy came out, and said, "Yeah, it's better over here." I said, "No, I came here to join the Marines." And that there was a guy, I guess he was a gunnery sergeant. He came out of his office. Well, young man, you made the right decision. Come on in. So I did. I went back to his office, and then he started all the paperwork. And he told me, he said, "Well, I need signature, your parents' signature on these." So I took them home. I never showed it to my parents, but I forged their name on it. So that's how I got into the Marine Corps. And then the last part of February 1973, they told me to come back, and I passed all the physical and everything else. So I came back and spent a night in Albuquerque. The next day, I was on the plane going to California, and I never been on a plane before, and it was exciting. Got on the plane to Albuquerque. We flew all the way to LAX in Los Angeles, and then from there we got another plane all the way to San Diego. And then when we got to the airport, there was a bus waiting for us. Everybody, people from other different areas, states, uh, Mexicans, white people, black people, and other Indian tribes. They were there. We all got on the bus and they took us to the recruit depot. And I was in for a rude awakening when I got there. And then drill instructors came out there and said, "Get on, you got about, I think what he said, 5 seconds to get off this bus and get on those yellow footprint. Now!" That's what he yelled, and oh man, all hell broke loose. And we got on the yellow footprint and stood there and everything else. And all the process started, in the evening. And the first thing they did to us was they marched us to the barber shop, and every single one of us, they gave us a haircut, and uh, we couldn't even comb it or nothing. But anyway, they issued us. We had to take our civilian clothes off, and then we had to pack them, and they gave us uniforms. And probably didn't go to bed until probably after midnight. And after that, probably about 3 o'clock in the morning, the drill instructor came in again into the area where we were sleeping at. They were making noise, yelling, throwing trash cans here and there. Get up, get up, get up. And so we did. We had to get ready real fast. And we went to the what they call Chaw Hall. It's a dining area for the troops. We got there, and um, they told us nobody eats until everybody sits down. And so we just sat there, not eating. We're just looking at each other, and we didn't know when to eat. And usually, when you sit down and take your time in eating, but there, and then as soon as the last person sat down, and they told us, "Eat," and then we just started eating. We started taking our time. And about 10 seconds later, they start yelling again, "Get out, get out, get out, get out." And here I was looking at the food, and I said, "We haven't even start eating yet." And they said, get out of here." And so we had to dump all our food. And we got out, got in formation. They marched us back. And then the indoctrination starts, all the shots and everything else. And then the next morning, we knew better because as soon as they said eat, you just gobbled that thing down. You don't even chew it. You just swallowed it. That's the way it was. That was a rude awakening. But I made it through boot camp. I started training the first part of March 1973, all the way, and then I graduated on June the 1st, 1973. After that, I came home on leave in uniform, and my parents were happy to see me. Everybody was happy to see me. And I spent 2 weeks at home, and then I had to go back to California for another training. I spent probably about a month and a half there, went through another training, came home again on leave, and then I believe August, somewhere in the middle of August 1973, they told us to report to Travis Air Force Base. And we got there and they put us on a plane that evening and we took off. And we didn't know where we were going. But then we went up to Anchorage, Alaska. Never been to Alaska, but it was at night. From there, we went to Yokota, Japan. And finally, in the morning, we landed in Philippines at Clark Air Base. And from there, they took us by bus to Subic Bay. And we were separated there again and more indoctrination and everything else. And then we went to a thing they call JES School, Jungle Environmental Survival Training. And we had to go through that and everything else. And they kept shipping us out in and out, to where the conflict was going on. So, and it was a rude awakening for us. Never been to that part of the country. Never been anywhere. I think the furthest I went west was Grand Canyon. To the south was Phoenix. To the east was probably Albuquerque. And that was it. Never been anywhere. Never been out of the U.S. And it was quite a culture shock for me when I got overseas. And the way people live. And we live a lot better than how they live. It's a poor country, third world country. And it's just not like how us Navajos live. And when I got there, I found out that an average worker earns about $10 a month. I said, wow. And we here in on here on the reservation or anywhere, you don't earn $10 a month. You earn more than that. But in their country, it was like that. And when I was in military, they there's a thing they call military occupational specialty, and that's your job title. So I started out as a 0311, which was infantryman, and then later on I transferred to 5800 field, which is military police. So I was military police for a while, and finally, after a few years, I transferred to 6100 field, which is aviation helicopters, and that's what I did. And I was in the Marine Corps for 16 years and been on a lot of operations, and I've been all over Far East Asia, starting with Hawaii, Guam, Japan, Korea, Hong Kong, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, India, and all those countries, Oman, Iraq, Iran, and Sudan, and down all the way down to Africa and Australia. And there was a small island called Diego Garcia. That's where we used to pick up supplies. And we and all the little islands in between, during World War II. That's where, uh, they fought the Japanese. And it was an interesting tour. Got to see a lot of countries. So, and then along the way, I trained with the Navy SEALs. So a lot of our operation that we conducted, was joint team, joint task force. So, but anyway, when I was in the service, I lost a lot of friends, good friends, and some of them they never made it home. Some of them we couldn't find them. Some of them only was shipped home in pieces, what they could identify. And some of them, their aircrafts were shot down at sea, and they were buried at sea. and I believe some of them took their own lives because they couldn't deal with it. So that's what happened. I believe that's why some military soldiers turn to alcohol and drugs because they can't really deal with what happened out there. P PTSD, that's what they call it, and it affects you in a certain way, and it haunts you. And it just seemed like it just happened yesterday, but still, it happened years ago. But that tragic moment it still lingers in your life. It's a never-ending process, and sometimes it haunts you. And maybe some people recovered from it, but some didn't. And that's why I really started drinking after that. And we used to sit there at the end of the day. We shed tears, get drunk, and then we used to smoke marijuana. And we try to console each other. And a lot of times we blame ourselves. Maybe we'll blame ourselves forever. Why me? Even the next day, when you're recovering from a hangover, that event is still lingering in your mind. That's why we used to use marijuana. We used to get drunk. But then, like I said, when you sober up, it's still there. And you feel withdrawn from everything. And that's what happened to a lot of servicemen, veterans. A lot of veterans are trying to deal with that. And then when I came home, people didn't really understand too. Here, your wives, your friends, people that you know, they don't understand you. They think, oh, what the heck's wrong with him? He's in a bad mood, avoiding everybody, not sharing at all times. People they tend to say things about you that you're mad all the time, but they don't realize what is going through your mind, what's affecting your mind, what you've been through. You feel responsible for what happened out there to your military friends. And a lot of time you think that it was your fault. You kind of blame yourself for that. There's a scar in your heart, and you can carry that burden. It can't be erased the way I look at it. Sometimes you feel like the dead servicemen, the people who are dead, are lucky. They didn't have to go suffer through all these things and carry this burden. And it was hard when I came back. It was hard to readjust. My mom was a traditional person who believed a medicine man can cure these things. And the ill feeling and push curses away. But you had to spend a few $100s, to get these things done. But then I think they only work temporarily, and the haunting still continues. What about a preacher? Inexpensive, but does praying and giving it to God take it all away? Your mind has a scar, which I believe nothing can change that. Look at all the homeless veterans out there now on the street. Some can't cope with life at home, and they're still wandering in the streets out there. And I always think about them when I see one walking around having a sign saying that please help me or homeless. I always share what I could with them. That's why if you have somebody in your family who is a ex-military or something, respect them, respect them. And if they're out there, go out there, bring them home, talk to them. And that's how I was when I came back. And everybody was thinking, oh, he's an alcoholic, leave him alone. In the Navajo, they used to say, Atlania, they no Trinity. Trinity net no. And then when you going through a hangover or whatever, you ask for money. It based on that they don't need no. Although they push you away. Nobody would sit down with you. Nobody would sit there and talk to you. Nobody. They don't care. People don't care. That's the way I look at it. That's what I've been through. And you probably have people out there, relatives, brothers, sisters, uncles, grandpas, nullies, veterans. They're probably going through that situation right now. To me, I would bring that person home and love him, care for him, straighten him out, talk to him, counsel him, and try to set him straight again. And that's what happened to me. When I see my friends, men and women, it makes me happy for a few minutes, talking, sharing, events, stories, and it kind of takes your mind off those terrible burdens. Only for a few minutes. But when they leave, it comes back. Even when you talk to somebody, a lady, the opposite sex, then people take it wrong, it says, oh, he's fucking around on you. He's doing this out in public. They say that. But when will people mind their own business? And the way I think, I wish we had a different government here in the United States. Like other countries, everybody goes through military training in other certain countries, not all the countries, but certain countries. And they learn military skills. They learn how to obey orders and things like that. And the military rules in certain countries. And then I always think, I wish it was like that here in the United States. And maybe everybody will understand what it feels like to experience these episodes in your life. Yes, my drinking got bad in the military, where I ended up in rehab for a while, which led me to a sober life for a few years. And then after my honorable discharge, I finally got back home to, living the res life. And I couldn't get used to it because being in the city and everything else, being out in the country is totally different. And I couldn't get used to it. And there was nothing to do, here on the reservation. And then I came home. People, like in the city, there's always something going on, concerts, whatever. But here on the reservation, the only time something's going on is on the weekends. But it's at the bars and things like that. That's what I started doing. I started drinking, and then the liquor and everything else was available, and many different kind of alcoholic beverages. And then I got back on the wagon. I started drinking again, real bad. I hit bottom, and when you hit bottom, it's scary, and you panic. Your heart starts racing. It feels like you're gonna die because bad withdrawals, DTS. I've suffered all that stuff, and I think that's some of the reason why some people going through DTS or whatever, they can't take it anymore, and they just commit suicide or step in front of a moving vehicle or something. And to me, that's the easy way out. And when I got back on the wagon, I was still single. I didn't have to answer to anybody, not even a spouse. But then later on, I met somebody. I felt free at last. But then, going through the episode, I end up in the hospital several times with bad withdrawals. I couldn't stop drinking. And I know that. I know how you guys feel if you're an alcoholic. And especially when you look around and There's nothing else to help you. You got to have that drink. You got to have that drink. That's the only thing that will settle your nerves. And then you start panicking. Your heart starts racing. And I suffered through that. And I had a lot of stuff on valuables, a lot of stuff I accumulated through my years in the military. I started selling them. And that, especially, when you don't have any money and nobody wants to loan you money because they know you're going to go out and get drunk on it again. But that's the only thing that relaxes you. Even at night, when you're having going through all these episodes, you take another drink, and then it kind of settles you down. But only for a while. Maybe you can get some sleep. You fall asleep, you sleep there, and then when you wake up, you say, "Oh man, that's good. Got some rest. Get some sleep." And then when you look at the clock, you've been only asleep 10 or 15 minutes, and you're up again, and those feelings come back again. And I know how it feels. And people say, "Yeah, I know how you feel." They don't know how you feel, but I knew how I felt. I could drink a whole fifth of vodka, a whole bottle. I know I can. I knew I was drunk, but my mind was still alert. I still knew what I was doing. My bodily function. I was just staggering, falling all over the place, and you lose your bodily fluids and everything else. And that's how bad I got. And I know that people, they can't go through that. And some people, they just end their lives. I thought about it. I really seriously thought about it, that I couldn't go on like this forever. And then one day, after another episode, and that's when I realized, I said, I can't go on living like this. I can't. I said, this has to end. And so one day, on my own, what I did was I got all those bottles together, everything that I had, and I destroyed them. And when I used to get a lot of money, few monies, and what I did was I went to almost every other liquor store, and I bought the big bottles, the fifth, and I had a bag that slung across the back of my seat. It's used for traveling. You can put your stuff in there, personal stuff, all that uh, that baggage thing behind the seat. I don't know how many bottles of liquor I had back there. And then I got smart. I said, well, if I get stopped one of these days, by the police, I was thinking, I said, they're going to confiscate all that. And so I got smart. I started going out to the east, to the south, to west, to the north, around my house where I live. And I started hiding all these bottles. I knew where these bottles were. They were well hidden. And then when I run out of drink or something, I go out there and then I start looking for them, and I find them. And there's probably some, there's probably still some bottles still out there. And that was the biggest battle I fought in my life. And I was diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver. The doctor told me, he said, if you keep on drinking, people die from cirrhosis. If you keep on drinking, that's what's going to happen to you. And that's why I had to stop. And then after that, I don't know how many years I was with a lot of temptations. And it was a very hard thing to do to give up drinking. But I did it. I got away from it. And I know you probably have somebody in your life, your family, your siblings. They're probably out there. They're suffering from that, from alcoholism. If you go to Gallup, you see a bunch of young people, and sometimes you see elderly out there. with a backpack living on the street, probably sleeping somewhere. And especially when it's cold, they have no place to go, nothing to eat. They just begging and things like that. And sometimes, I feel for them. Sometimes every now and then I go out, I buy things and put a meal together and some water. I go out and I find these people sitting there in groups. I go over there and I talk to them and I pray for them and I feed them and they're very thankful. And even though they might be alcoholics and we call them atlanis, but when you give them something, first when they receive something, they'll say thank you, God bless you. That's what they say. I heard that so many times. God bless you. That's what they're saying. They still remember God, even though they might be alcoholics. And that's how people used to look at me. Johot Adanil Iyan Kidene. I didn't yada Tahana not idi not idi no. O de nitsi here. Ani kuta. Dobaka ucheta. O. Based on other don't need. It only cannot or clean. Tadine, ya. Ani, tadinitla. No what none, no other question none. Tadine, ya. Don't allow dandin. But I had to buy, yeah. But I had to buy. Joe had asked Chippy and see ya Jago big a till he said, nee. Did that Lanigi. Ado Kadhanat opioid, do meth, big it's a nalte. Hard, she. Yahanado, nee. Hola. It seems like everything's getting worse. O anis, nahalden. Ako ebony no. Nikedinesa at outjidness kago, yoches kago. Hadano tra, but now ka, bakao tree. But in your dust key. Joe had out eya, has that nutata, see whista, yego big kansia, ako disjede. That it open that stinking linko. Yo ya hetanzen. Atlani hodat eya lepe bajaraho. Ado let hoda. Ist ede bajichihu. Jacob, but so distance. Arabic at the leho. She yahitanza. Yeah, thank you. God bless you, Dania. The Enholorole, Dania. Is she page on nata? Bebenet nata, though. Linko. Nikedo that Ginitla, a Tiota de car. Said our coy. La ishness. Hard, she. That is could, said, but I drop by. Had aban case en leken das goed egot you adet on da kai ako dis jide ja hekat has the nonsta um I'm leading a sober life now and then being a student qua instra Navajo Technical University holje ako information technology new media yolje eba instra ebenina dit adis schließen so dit abik in dich so Ako jaha ako etra instra. Ako de. As a student, it helps me cope with different issues, which I've addressed here, some of them. And being a Christian helped me maintain my theology, views. Individually, I understand what my current problems are, but to others, they don't understand you. They'll easily judge you or to be judgmental. Anyway, it's their own lives they should worry about, not others. Ahodan nisa at the legend de hodan she chain there and not in hasado to the zenda is on. She chain the ne to banjit ida nisa. The in the ne badanche, badahutche, ebinina, the ne to banjit ida. Do vigil ida at dotne. Yego, bahilidan niko. Ado kutito. Being a Christian, etna shodi kadina. Eto ahodan the to banjit ida. Obatzuzilin. Obanjdi you forgive them. And that's what I do. I forgive people, even my siblings. I forgive them. They're out there. They're in their own world. Hindi ko. Ako, ako enleo alcoholics in surrounding areas, wandering aimlessly, asking for spare change to ease their pain. I know it's hard to relieve your pain. You got to have that next drink. If you have anything of value, you resort to pawning it, selling it. That's how I lost a lot of good, valuable stuff because I did that. You try to ask a friend, family member, they'll just turn you down. They say, oh, go on, get out of here. They know you're going to use it for booze. Nobody wants to listen. Just talking to someone puts your mind at ease for a few minutes, for a few moments. But people have no idea what an alcoholic is going through, goes through. Sometimes it's so scary. Your heart races. You feel like you're going to faint. You feel like you're going to die. It's a scary situation. And the only way to do that is to get away from it. And if you have family members out there struggling, I recommend that you go get them, bring them home. Oh, sige do siya now. I do oh, di siya ka that no. I inspire people. The Christian nacha. Lande Navajo Technical University in Straw. And some of the students, the younger students, my classmates, they always think, oh, he's just one of the staff member or faculty member. But when I tell them, I said, I'm a student here, going to school. And they said, you going to school? How old are you? You're never too old to go back to school. So I inspired a lot of people. I'm 70 years old. And then this year, 2024, December 24, I'll be 71 years old. So sa tinawa on asla isanakay daw ko. Ado kujit etahulji sa lahashi. As kedan hota chinis hindi kashmasho. Anik and da kat na enjoy the kat no. I don't know if that's true. I was too small to go into bars anyway at the time, but that's what people used to do. They used to go to Gallup. Anik and da kat no. I guess they had a bunch of bars. They used to give away free drinks, and people used to go down there and get drunk. That was in the 50s and 60s. That's what they used to do. Now you have to buy it, and things like that. And nobody gives out anything free anymore. So that was a long time ago, and I'm just sharing my life, from the time I was young to now. Even now, I get criticized, but it's only word. That's the way I take it. The necha ida shetnin the shotzi the aten do not achanas sit. Oh, shabedishin. God bless you. Not so, but so this what end. Aro ha ida nechas neo. Aro do. Hodo ochas nidajan. Hodigin eyes nijan. Eben not digin obans the ah. And you forgive everybody in your life, no matter what they did to you. They might have hurt you, whatever. The best thing to do is forgive them and pray for them. That's the way I'm living now. Oh, ado tata khat eishi, khat out the nether society deeds ehun. Are you a counselor or haila? Non no. Yeah, I was a substance abuse counselor. I worked for behavior health the 2 years in Ishla. Oh, the net but khat shot on I used to run AA meetings and things like that. That I get home. Oh, but I still go. I still go because you need those things, and they have a 12-step program. Oh, that hegi. What again that what a beat hadiya don't there. But then some people used to come to me and say, I want to talk to you, Dano. Yeah, anybody can talk to me. I'm available. But you know where to find me. Navajo Technical University. Glen King and shit. Glen King, Naga, they'll tell you. Or in Crown Point. Crown Point, Yoshida Hudson. Anywhere east of Crown Point. They people know me. This is Glen King, Lahabagan. They'll tell you. They'll tell you where I live at. At Koshikero Shidana. Kodot Epic and this is one of my senior class project. Although I only have one more semester, I'll be getting another degree. It's called Information Technology, New Media. And hopefully by next May, I'll get another bachelor's degree, Bachelor Applied Science degree. Shana nish insen da ekon. Nikilista hoslado lenko. Ikado adita sinostagi. Do kwa igite ahosan, Navajo Technical University kwa. Ado nagay nan Georgia ado shana nishat ilkeda KJK ado trajastki inde ado KND inden do ade George Rito Yampel ado nagay KHC the Platabaka naswa KMIN in Grant KDSK in Albuquerque kadi akwa Navajo Technical University KCZY or your radio station chabayan ilka akwa eso baka naswa ahot ishana shit in linko asin tzato she named that of in lincoln le ado le panda altehoda a kohan zish that niliko ado the bayansen oho ahat oho ahat eko akohot yahay do is the hokato to don't become Christian edo the shnida ash se zingi beta hashne Kajote no kato li linko ni keban zeta kes na halchen Jihitnes kage the wohlewan da kage bedasli batsadalsan. That's all you have to do. Pray that they come home and pray like it already happened. The legend okay kata chita gato na dance great the traditin that jinnet dan nisland bin dan ado ha hatsadzen dit dan nisland kedan hatudo sani dan lena how many of us still do that at them what was killed ocha I aha she jetly ya ahot ende kon kato kon hit hasti linko do could she e ya anotro digen hilkolodo I pray for everybody every day ado the shahota but for the sun should nap in thing everybody I have a lot of friends not only here on the reservation statewide nationwide worldwide and I pray for all of them and some of them are probably gone you know um, but I remember them I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Njono ko tetna nadi ka 2025 bigitya. Akut ela ko sikero shetane. Akala ko do the sinot ko ti hol ji ko and have a good blessed day. God bless you all.